You know, life's too short to settle for less. You deserve the best. I like how you like
What is up? It's your boy, the pettiest Laker fan, Darian Woods, aka the pettiest to ever do it. I'm here with Edwin Garcia, and we are back, baby. Petty in the Post is back. Tell everyone. What's up, Edwin? How you doing, brother?
Hey man, how's it going? I'm glad to be back. Excited. We're entering that final quarter of the season, so things are heating up.
Yeah, and just like the final quarter of the season, the last leg, like the teams, they start to heat up, they start to pick up, take the games more seriously. Well, everybody except for like the Kings and the Clippers, because that was like 200 points scored. But everyone else starts to take the games a little bit more seriously, and just like that, Petty in the Post, we're ramping up too. We'll be full steam by the time the playoffs started.
That's right.
Cool. Well, we have not too much on the docket today. The NBA has been kind of boring. No, I'm kidding. But no, we have a lot going on in the NBA. Not so many different topics, but one very serious topic right now, which obviously is Ja Morant. It has a little bit of everything, like you described off camera. It's sad. It's scary. It's hilarious. It's a lot of things. So we're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk a little bit about different things that are going on around the NBA. Some of the story beats, like sneakers that were released at All-Star break. And then also, as Laker fans, we're going to show some love to Pau Gasol, whose jersey is going to be retired tomorrow, and I will be in the building. So look out for some content on that. Yes, sir.
What was up with the invite? What happened there?
I was actually going to tell you, like, let's hit up lunch, bro. Pull up.
I'm playing. No, it's cool.
Nah. Yeah, man. You're usually, you're too busy over here getting paid from doing, working in the NBA, like you told us last time.
Harrison doesn't let me have any fun, so I couldn't go even if I wanted.
Fair enough.
No, Harrison would if I asked, but obviously my job is to cover every Lakers postgame, so pretty much I gotta be, locked in, writing the stuff and that. So if I could have, I'm sure I could have got these. It would still have to be an excuse absence. So I'm dedicated to the grind there at Silver Screen and Roll. So make sure you're reading everything they do there, especially the stuff I do. And we also got some cool stuff happening there in the coming weeks. But I'll keep a lid on that until we're ready to share it.
Hey man, I look forward to it, man. Keep me locked in. I share all your content, man. This guy
I appreciate it.
writes very good content, especially basketball. He knows his stuff, so make sure you guys tap in. Ads on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. So let's get into it. So we're gonna go a little bit into post All-Star break. We've got a few things that happened. Kevin Durant made his debut for the Suns. That team looks scary. What do you think about them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what they were missing last year, right? When they needed, well, it was a lot of stuff, and Luka was just Luka. So it was that whole Game 7 was just like, I couldn't believe it when I was watching it. The last time a game shocked me like that Game 7 Dallas Phoenix was when the Lakers won the championship. Not because they won, but the way they won, where they played like the world's best defense, and I was like, we're up by 30, and it's like the second quarter. I'm like, I think this is done, And yeah. It was the same thing when I saw Luka back down slow, like big man DeAndre Ayton hit a floater. I was like, oh, this game's over. Like this is done. Like he's gone Super Saiyan. It's over. And I don't know if Durant in that game would have been the difference, but he's a player you can't do those kinds of things to. He's going to get his bucket. He's going to score. He's not going to be on a team that's 30 points midway through the second quarter. Like that's just not going to happen.
No, he'll just score 30 if he has to.
Exactly. He'll carry them, which he's done. On it, just about every team, he's been sensational in the clutch. At least in terms of the mass production. So I think it's a wonderful mystery. There were so many trades. I think to me it felt like the busiest trade deadline ever, right? The Lakers changed half their team. The Clippers are now, the Russell Westbrook stands, and the Suns got a different team.
Definitely missing Luke Kennard. That dude been balling, bro.
Yeah, and then you got the Nets, obviously because of the Durant
by the way, I need to stop you right there because I need to say this. What has gotten into Mikal Bridges? Like, I knew he was a great player. I knew he was going to be that guy that could like give you 20 a night if he was just the guy who needed to do that, or like give you like 17 and like lockdown defense. Like, but this guy is looking like, I'm not saying he is, but since he's been
Right.
traded, he's looking like an all-star. The Suns and Devin Booker was holding him back, man. What's going on there?
Yeah, it shocks me too. I'm still not like I don't let a couple games or a week change my overall thought of someone because it could just be a hot week or two. But man, if it is, he's on a heater. So maybe I'll just case like the James Harden effect. Maybe just getting that extra reps, his numbers are just going to literally go up as the opportunity goes up. Yeah, he was incredible last night. I think he had like 20 something in the first or something. I had a friend. I have a group chat with some basketball people, and I had a really big Brooklyn Nets fan in there, and he was like, "Oh, he's got 8 already. He's got 10 already. He's got 17 already." And I'm like, "What is going on?" And and I'm like, he's just like updating me like by the minute, and it's just like the numbers keep going up, and the misses are not, and I'm like, this is incredible. And that's just one of, like you said, a handful of games. Of the handful of games he's played with the Nets, that's been like that. So I'm not sure. Maybe he really is that. Maybe he's just feeling himself, and like you said, that bigger opportunity. Took it personally. I'm sure getting traded is not fun, especially when you're on a contender and you're kind of like the part of those collection of pieces to move to get the piece they really want. So, but hey, he's taking
Yeah,
advantage
he
of
might be
opportunity.
motivated. I think too.
Yeah.
Some of that's probably motivation for being like, this is what you decided to trade, too. But I think that's cool. Like to me, that shows
Mm-hmm.
good character. Like it shows me that you're like, a ball. It's kind of like, I give a lot of crap to D'Angelo Russell, about like the whole thing when he was here, but like he left and he became a better player. Like he continued to get better. He became an all. He was an all-star like 2 years right after we traded him.
Yeah, with Brooklyn,
With
actually,
with
I
with
guess if your career is going bad, go to Brooklyn and you'll get revived.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I'm learning. Something about Brooklyn. Just go to Brooklyn. It's gonna work out.
Definitely. Moving on to, since we're just kind of doing shooting all around the NBA.
Sure.
What do we talk about? Jalen Brunson, JJ Redick. He made sure that he showed him love. He kind of said a statement that a lot of people kind of took out of context because he said something like along the lines that like he's been as good as any guard in the league right now, like playing in the league right now. And everyone's like, well, Steph Curry, like Steph Curry's injured right now. He's not playing right now currently.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it's been phenomenal because I had doubts about Jalen Brunson the way that you're thinking about Mikal Bridges. That's kind of how I felt about Brunson. I'm
Yeah.
like, he seems like he's really good, but I don't know if he's like him. You know what I mean? To give him
Yeah.
all that money, and he is not disappointed.
Yeah, he's a perfect player to ask the question overrated, underrated, because I feel like if we ask 10 people, we're gonna get like 6-4, and I don't even know which way it's gonna go, right? Because like you said, getting that money, being the focal point of like well not the focal point of an offense, but kind of just like you're running the show, and we trust you to run the show, and we're not making changes. Like you're our guard, you're our point guard. Like we believe in you. Obviously, Dallas didn't feel that way. That's why they didn't spend the money on him. But look, they went and got Kyrie, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, the Knicks. I realize they're like our cousin or brother from like the East Coast. Because when I talk to Knicks fans, they talk about that. They're like, we always got to overpay. And whenever we get someone, everyone trashes him because he's going to the Knicks. And what have the Knicks done?
Yeah.
They kind of deal with that same kind of energy we deal with. And
Minus the
they love
championships.
them. Yeah, minus the Jets, right? So I heard a lot of the same things from them. They were right away like, no, he's worth it. We've struggled having good guards. He's a great guard. Like he's gonna solve a lot of stuff. And we're good with it. We don't think we got robbed. We feel like, obviously you would like to pay less, but overall it's worked out. And look, they've won the most games. I think they've won every single game since the All-Star break. They're like 9-0 with Josh Hart, which is the stat people use to,
Dude.
to kind of like connect it. So they've been great. So I don't see how they could regret it at this point. I think the Knicks are overachieving based on where we thought they would be when the season started.
I mean, I think that's kind of like been the Julius Randle iteration of the Knicks, is that like overachieving don't really get the respect that they might deserve, at least for the regular season. I think there's a conversation to be had about like, can this team do anything in the playoffs, because the thing about the coaching style there is that he makes the guys play like playoff intensity throughout the
Yeah.
season, but when the playoffs come, everyone's playing playoff intensity, and they're probably less tired because they haven't been playing that
Yeah,
all
I
season.
think I think the energy, yeah, like you said, it works in the regular season because you're probably going harder than everyone else. but that's no longer true in the playoffs. And right now, if things were done today, they'd play the Cavs, and I'd be nervous about four. Right now, that's the 4-5. The Knicks are fifth, at the time of this recording, and the Cavs are fourth. I think I might pick the Cavs. I think the Knicks play better defense, but Donovan Mitchell, like that's with the home court. Right now they're the 4th seed again. That might change. So, like you said, it might be a 50-win season where they get knocked out in the first round. So it's still work to do in New York for sure. But I think when you look at everything, if I would have told you to start a season, they're going to be better than Atlanta, they're going to be better than Brooklyn, you would have probably said, man, like something must have happened. And although things did happen, they were better than those teams before they made their trades and their moves, right? So, yeah, the Knicks have definitely, they've overachieved regardless of what happens. But we'll have to see what happens in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a valid point. I'm very intrigued about the East. Like right now, the West looks like a drawing out of a hat. I don't know who's gonna be where. Once I have a better picture of that, I'm really hoping the Lakers can make the plan. And the way that they're trending, they look like they'll at least very minimum make the plan. I mean, the 5th seed's not that far out of grasp. If LeBron was playing and not injured, I would say for sure, Lakers are making the play, like getting that 5th seed. But right now, it's kind of up for grabs. But in the East, I'm very excited about like how things are playing out. Like the East is probably the best it's ever been since Jordan. I really mean that. Like since like, and I mean like the East wasn't very good then, but it's been like the team that you really are like looking out for.
Yeah, well,
out there.
I think the East in the 90s was interesting. We all kind of knew how the story was going to end, but you still were like, but I wonder. Could the Knicks beat the Bulls this year? Could the Pacers beat the Bulls this year?
And there was a lot of Magic beat them. Or the Magic.
Oh yeah,
when Jordan came back, like it was like
there was a lot of good, interesting teams and good, interesting matchups. Like if you go whenever you like, in the summer you're like low on basketball, go watch those Charlotte New York Knicks playoff series. Real physical, fun basketball. Like again, no one wins anything, but those playoff series are really good. So I think you're right. I think this is the most I've looked forward to the East playoffs in a couple years. Because the last couple years I've just been like, well, it's either going to be Brooklyn, Philly, or Milwaukee. And this year that still might be true, but I'm more interested in that bottom half too. Like Cleveland, New York seems interesting. Like that. I want to see does Atlanta get in now that they've changed coaches, right? Are the Nets still going to fall off because of all the changes they've made? How about the Heat? Like, why are they struggling? Are they going to make it in? So I think there's just a lot more teams where I'm going to be interested, and I'll probably be like, more excited about those first round matchups than I was, last year and the year before.
Yeah, I think the Heat are kind of like a quandary to me. There's like, they shit. Like I don't think that they were serious contenders with that roster, but they're underperforming. Wouldn't you agree? From like what the roster that they have, and I think they're one of those teams that's going to be better in the playoffs than they are in the regular season. They're definitely going to like Jimmy Butler's going to Jimmy Butler, which is like to me he's one of those. He's like a top 20, 25 player in the regular season, and then in the playoffs he becomes like a top 10, top 5 performances in there. He's not going to give it to you every game. He's going to give you 41 game and then like 15 and 10 the next game.
Jimmy Butler's a player I don't worry about in the playoffs. Like I do not. I'm like if I have a healthy Jimmy Butler, I've seen him do it in Chicago. I saw him do it in Miami. Saw him do it that one season with Philly. I don't know. Obviously, that was a big mistake choosing Ben Simmons over Jimmy. But Jimmy was the one, again, especially because he's a guard. You need, we'll talk more about this, as we get closer to the playoffs and all that. But you need, like, elite guard/wing play to, like, really win. And Jimmy's the kind of guy you can just give him the ball and say, yo, just get us some buckets, right?
Yeah, he's not even a shooter. But he's a scorer. Like, think about that. He's not a shooter. He's a scorer. He's going to miss 2 3-pointers, and then that 1 3-pointer that you need him to make, that where he's fading away in the corner with 2 people on him, he's gonna make it.
And he makes the right play. He's had games, too, in those playoffs, in that Heat run. He had games where he scored 8 points, but he had 7 rebounds and 8 assists, and those assists were to Jimmy. We're the hero, they're the Tyler Hero. He's passing the ball to Bam, and he would say it after the game. He's like, "I'm just trying to win. Like that's all I care about." So yeah, I only scored 8, but I had 7 dimes. I had 8 boards. Like we won the game, So he can impact the game too without scoring, even though that is what his like strongest point is.
Absolutely. I always think back to the in the bubble, man. That performance, we should have won that game, but he had an all-time NBA Finals performance. And I hate the narrative about the bubble because some of the best basketball I've ever seen in my life was in there because the people in there
Yeah.
were just focused on basketball and it was special.
That Denver team, that 2020, that 2019, that bubble Denver team, in my opinion, is better than this Denver team. That's how good that Denver team was. They went through everybody. They had Jamal Murray when he was fully healthy. Joker was still a top player. Like that Denver team was incredible.
Yeah.
They just ran into the Lakers. That was really. I think they probably would have won it against the Heat. I don't know, but I mean they were really good, and they
How
had
did
everybody except Gooden. So yeah, they were
yeah.
fantastic.
I think fair point there. Let's move on. Let's move to the West. Actually, before we move on to talking about the West, since we kind of jumped over around, but let's finish the Eastern conversation. Um, let's talk about Philadelphia, and you kind of had some interesting thoughts off air and I would like you to kind of share them. Of what you think about them.
Yeah, sure. So Philly to me is interesting because they're not interesting. To me, Philly's been like, and I'd love to hear Dalton on this. Here are what do you used to call them? Our eyes in the sky.
Yeah, yeah. Our man pulling the strings, right?
Yeah. I just got to see because for me, I haven't watched a bunch of Philly basketball. I watch when they play the Lakers, a couple games here and there when they're like on NBA on ABC and that kind of thing, right? But from what I've seen and what I've heard, and I have some Philly fans too that I talk to, other than Dalton. For the most part, they've been good. They've been great. They've been doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it's just a matter of do they have enough to beat Milwaukee and Boston, who are in front of them. They've pretty much been around that top 5, top 3 all season long. And in a season where so many things we talk about, it's so tight in the West, and you can go from 5th to 14 if you lose 3 games. They've been kind of boring. They haven't had controversies. They haven't had big roster shakeups. They've just been a really good team playing basketball. Kind of almost like one of those good teams where you're just waiting for the playoffs because you're like, well, we know what we got, we know who we are, we know our roster. We're just kind of waiting for the show to start. I find it interesting that they're kind of boring this season because they're just good.
Yeah.
Dalton, did I get that right, or what's it like for you, kind of watching more day by day, game by game?
I mean, there are still frustrating moments. Definitely, it's like you said. Most of everything's going right. Most of everything's hitting right. We're winning games. We're third in the East. Embiid looks better this year, arguably, than he did last year, and he was an MVP contention. He should be this year, but apparently he isn't. There's some frustrations. There are times when Tobias Harris isn't producing, or we're having trouble with rotations and PJ Tucker and. You kind of name it. If you look at the game tonight, they played the Pacers, and it was 140 something, 150 to 140 something. It's like a game with absolutely no defense whatsoever. But then again, there are bright spots in that game. Embiid drops 42 on 69% shooting. Harden has 20 assists and 1 turnover. If you look at that Celtics game that was actually broadcast about 4 or 5 days ago, they ended up losing that game. But at the same time, they clawed their way back from down. I think they've proven that behind Embiid and Harden playing well and Maxey as the third, they can definitely compete. Absolutely. They just can't make mistakes. And,
Do you think that they're contenders?
I think they're contenders. Yeah. You know what I mean? I always see people put tier lists together, for contenders, pretenders, this and that. They always put Boston and Milwaukee in tier 1, you know what I mean? Like contenders, and then they have tier 2 that's okay, contenders, but they're hot, and then they're not quite tier 1. I still think they're kind of tier 2 only because I want to see them string together a few games against a good playoff team. It's one thing to be winning regular season games, but when you've got a team for 7 games. Potentially, I gotta see them string it together for 7 games. I've gotta see how Tobias Harris responds. We need him to be a shooter, and at times he isn't. He's hesitant. The rotations have to respond. The addition of Jalen McDaniels was fantastic. I think, and he was in the starting lineup tonight, and he did very well. Not only that, but Tyrese Maxey has to start too. He came back from injury. He was playing 6th man. and he wasn't as effective off the bench as he is as a starter when big minutes. And a lot of people made a point about, well, Maxi's a defensive negative, or Maxi's a defensive this. Well, the defensive rating with Maxi in the lineup is actually better than the defensive rating with DeAnthony Melton in the lineup. So it's like, I think you just can't overthink it. You gotta put Maxi in to play minutes. I'm probably rambling, but like,
I like this because like you said, that's not a team that we're watching on a day-to-day basis. So to me, I like to hear about it so that I can get it from someone. It's like, for me, I could tell you the 16th man on the Lakers roster.
Yeah.
There'd be people on the two ways and all that stuff, but I couldn't tell you. I was looking at some guy on the Magic from some meme, and I'm like, who is this guy? Or like some guy, like, who is that? So we appreciate it, man. Seriously. The conversations you'll be the person, our eyes and ears in the Eastern Conference, for everything that's going on. So thank you, man.
Of course, and I mean, it's like you guys said, it is a stacked Eastern Conference this year. It really is something. Of course, you got Milwaukee and Boston, then you've got Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland absolutely killing it. You've got Jalen Brunson in New York killing it. You've got Brooklyn somehow possibly better with like 8 wing players starting than, a legitimate team together. Miami's an interesting prospect with everything going on. It's like, can Jimmy turn it on for the playoffs? We'll see. Another thing that's interesting, everything going on in Atlanta is interesting. Coming out with the locker room's not behind Trae Young, this and that. John Collins being on the trading block for like the 4th year in a row and then not getting moved for the deadline. It is an interesting season in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think really what's very interesting about what's going on in Atlanta, because like, dude, Trae Young is like really, really good. Like, he has some flaws to his game and like limitations. I don't know. You guys can get in the conversation about, can he be a number one on a real contender? But he's sensational, man. Aspects of his game, playmaking and scoring and shooting, he's very special. And I think it's so crazy that this team that we looked at a couple years ago, where like they're making waves, right? They made it to what the conference finals or the semifinals?
Yeah, the Eastern Conference Finals. Yep.
Yeah, Eastern Conference Finals, and you thought, man, this is like the beginning. This team's young; they have a lot upside, right? Because with Trae Young doing that so young, and kind of having some like ice in his veins, So I'm really surprised at the downslide that this team took. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I want to keep us around like 25-30 minutes. But let's go into the
really quick. I was just gonna say, you're right, but at the same time, I after this offseason, I'm very curious to see what Atlanta does. I think it's curious because, they just brought in Quinn Snyder, they got rid of Nate McMillan. There's these rumors that they've been wanting to move John Collins for years. Is this finally the offseason where they do it? One pickup that I really liked Sadiq Bey. Mm-hmm. I thought he was a good addition for that team, and I'm curious to see what he does on that team. So I think they're definitely a team to watch this postseason and going into this offseason, because they're a team that's in, they've got the pieces that have gotten to that Eastern Conference Finals before. It's like, can they prove to us that they can make that move or two, or that Quinn Snyder is a difference maker to get this team back to where it should be? And so that's all I wanted to add there, is that it's just a very intriguing team to watch going into the offseason.
I absolutely agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. I want you guys' thoughts on a few teams in the Western Conference. I want to start with the Lakers. I think that I'll say the trades that they made at the deadline have been sensational. Like that was like so like maybe one of the craziest team flips ever, because there's times where it's been done, like when LeBron did it. The Cavs did it, right? The year that LeBron should have won MVP, right before he went to the Lakers. And it felt like it was just like the same, right? It didn't feel like there was anything significant. It was more like, hey, we just need these certain people out of the locker room, But it feels like there's a new energy in the Lakers locker. What do you guys think about the roster, and do you think that they can make the playoffs? I think you said it a little bit already, Edwin.
Yeah, Palinka and the organization there did a great job. It was a tough situation with a player who was, owed a lot of money, and there's been a lot of talk about how good and not good Russ has been, Westbrook, and they had to. It came down to that, final hour to really make a move, make a play to improve the team, and they did it. They found a way to do it. And like you said, it came at a cost. It took all year until the trade deadline day to really make moves. Obviously, they made a few moves before. Rui was brought in, like 4 or 5 days before that and all that. But the big moves, getting the Mandalorian, getting D'Lo back, all that happened, in that final day. Moving Pat Bev as well. So they did an incredible job. But yeah, it came at a cost. It meant that most of the season's over, and now players who've never donned the jersey now have to play must-win games for like a month. And they're like, they just got here. Mo Bamba was showing pictures of the U-Haul, and now he's like trying to be a key role player in the rotation, trying to win games in the West that are needed because we're like behind by this, behind by that. I think overall they've done a great job implementing everybody. I'll be really curious to see how they look as we enter like April, let's say, like that final week in April when there's like 4 or 5 games, when they had more time together. But even now, they fit so well that it's been a little bit smooth, I'd say. I haven't felt like it's been rusty. I think Darvinham's done a pretty good job with the rotations quickly. After like 2-3 games, he kind of got it together. And even with that, LeBron goes down. D'Lo rolls his ankle on someone behind him he didn't even see, which was ridiculous. But, it happens. And they've still been able to win more games than they've lost. I think they're 6-3 since the Rui trade. I think they're 6-3. So they've actually played that. That's pretty good. 6-3 the rest of the way. They'll be just fine if they do that. So things have gone well overall, despite all this stuff. And they're right there. At the time we're speaking right now, I think there's a 3-way tie for 10th. And I think they don't have the tiebreaker, so they're technically 11th. But again, we still have 18 games to go or so. So they have more than enough time to get out of that tiebreaker. And they just got to keep winning and try to hopefully, D'Lo's been upgraded. You talk about the in-depth, right? I know the injury report. I'm halfway a doctor. Taking care of these Laker players. Yeah. He got upgraded from out to questionable, which obviously the optimistic side is, hey, he plays tomorrow. Or, okay, he doesn't play tomorrow. If he's questionable today, that means, for Friday's game, I think they play the Knicks. Hopefully he's good to go. That gives him, if he doesn't play tomorrow, he gets another 4 days off, rest that ankle, get ready to go. So things are going up. Obviously, they beat the Warriors. I don't think it's a coincidence. Curry came back to play the Lakers. That was his first game back. He didn't want to wait. He didn't want to wait.
He thought it was going to be. He thought it was sweet. He thought it was sweet. It was not sweet.
Nationally televised. I get it. Nationally televised game. It's Lakers Warriors. He comes in, hits his threes, doesn't stand, they win. That's not how it went down, which was good for us. And and yeah, we'll see how things go. But I definitely think, like you said, they'll at least make the play-in. Hopefully, they can get a little higher because that guarantees you a series versus like guarantees you a game. But they're definitely not going to be boring. It's going to be exciting. And I think the whole league's kind of curious as to how good this team is or isn't once they kind of get rolling.
Absolutely. Because we're going to close off on obviously the whole Ja Morant situation, but I want to name off some teams. I want you guys to both tell me contenders or pretenders. Okay.
All right, cool. Let's do it. Rapid fire.
All right. Warriors.
Contenders.
Nuggets.
Contenders.
Contenders. Yeah.
Clippers.
No.
Just no. Just no. Like not even pretenders. No.
I had to make it clear. It's like no.
Like no. Don.
Poignant. I'm gonna stick with pretenders. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for them, they're guilty until proven innocent. There's too much evidence to show that that duo cannot win. Let's see. Is there anyone else that I want to know in the West?
I mean, Suns, Kings, Grizzlies.
I think Suns kind of go. There's no way that the Suns are not pretenders, right? I mean, contenders. Apologies. Sorry, I forgot they traded for Katie.
Contenders for sure. They're contenders for sure.
But Grizzlies is interesting. We can use that to segue in. How do we feel? Do you think the Grizzlies are contenders or pretenders?
I think they're contenders. I would not be surprised, and I think that's why it's a good question, contenders returners. Because if you told me, hey, let me see actually where we're at right now, the standing. If you told me right now, hey, they lose to the Mavericks in the first round, which is that would be the matchup right now. If the Mavericks stay in the 7th seed, don't move up, or down, the play-in, I'd be like, yeah, I believe that. That meant that Luka went off, Kyrie was playing great, and maybe all the dysfunction kind of affected them a little bit, and they lost. So the fact that I'm going from championship to like you're knocked out in the first round, and I think both are in some ways possible. That probably says something about the team.
Let's not forget that they just lost Brandon Clark for the year too with an Achilles injury. So
Yeah.
that's someone relatively important in their lineup, and it's like, that on top of everything that's going on, it definitely could be something that we see disrupt their momentum. Even excluding the on-court drama, Ja missing 2 games at the kind of pivotal moment. How many games are they up in the standings right now? They're one game up on the Kings.
One game up on the Kings, then they have a little bit of a gap against the Suns. But again, the Suns just made a huge upgrade. So the Suns are 2 games back, and they've won 3 in a row. So they're probably coming too.
Missing Ja for 2 games and then losing Brandon Clark could be the difference between the 2 seed and the 4-5 seed. That could be a slide that could happen very quickly in the West.
And it might not be 2 games. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like if he comes back on the 3rd game, we're gonna be having the conversation's gonna be too hot right now. Like he's gonna. I say Ja Morant misses no less than 5 games, especially if they win any games. I say there's no way he comes back less than 5 games. Like I really doubt
that. Yeah, I think just the investigation aspect of it, and like you said, letting things cool off, because there's a lot of questions they have about how you had a gun. How you had it in that club, in that area. There's a lot of questions that the NBA's got to look into, and I'm sure he has to do. You saw Kyrie had to make an apology and this and that, and this training. We were talking off camera again about work stuff and watching videos for work and things like that. Employment related videes. Yeah. So I'm sure. I don't know if they're going to show him a, put the guns down video or something.
HR
I don't think he just, HR, he's not just going to, I don't think I would be shocked if Sean tweets, the 2 games are up and on the 3rd game, he's going to go. I think there's going to have to be a little bit more work done from the NBA and from himself. Yeah.
I would bet money there's that he would miss more than 2 games.
And they phrased it that way. They said at least 2. And, we'll see what goes past that.
Yeah. And that's a good segue because there's a lot of conversation going around the I guess around Ja Morant. To back up a little bit, Ja Morant posted went live on Instagram and flashed a gun, and it looked to be that he was in a club setting, a gentleman's club. Setting, and obviously there's an issue with this for a lot of reasons. Some people are talking on social media saying, there's nothing wrong with having a gun, and that's completely true. But one, what are the gun laws there? Are you allowed to have a gun in that location? Is it a legal firearm that's in his name, right? And more importantly, Ja Morant, a lot of people are not realizing that Ja Morant is one of the faces of the NBA. He's not just a person in the NBA. He's not JaVale McGee. He's not He's not some dude who just plays basketball as his living and then he, nobody really cares about what he's doing. The NBA and Nike have put this guy as a face of the NBA, the face of the sneaker. And because of that, you have to be a role model. That's just simple. That's as simple as it is. You have to be a role model in the way that we shouldn't ask athletes to be, the way we shouldn't glorify them. But the fact is, that is what it is. So there's no way to talk this down where it's you can justify it, because I don't care if Ja Morant has a gun. Listen, I know what it's like in certain places and for certain people, and you got to protect yourself, because the same way if Ja Morant ended up getting shot up, people would have said he should have had a gun on him, right? If it was in a place. But also, why are you in places where you would need to be protecting yourself like that, right? So to go on this, not on too long of a rant, there's no justification, in my opinion, for anything that he's done. Currently, he's under investigation. It was reported today. And there was some talk about a players-only meeting prior to the prior to the him going out and showing his weapon. Are you caught up on that, Edwin?
Yeah. So let me rewind it
break it
back a
down.
little bit because
Yeah.
that was a lot, right? Which is it makes sense because there's a lot to talk about. So I think for those who maybe just heard the story, like what you just kind of described, and they're like, "What's the big deal?" I think one of the problems with what's happened with Ja and this whole situation is this isn't the first incident he's had where people are talking about him and weapons and that kind of activity, right? There was, if we rewind it back just a few months ago, there was the incident where someone in his posse like had like a gun and pointed at some, I think some employees that work with the Pacers, in the parking lot and all that. And again, when that came out, Johnny's people said, no, that wasn't us, or that wasn't him, this and that. And it kind of just was like hearsay, chatter, rumor. Whatever.
Yeah, you're like, why would he do that? That'd be stupid, right?
Or okay, he said, she said, whatever happened there. But still, didn't sound great. Then he had the tweet in the summer, right? Where he was, again, he's just talking on Twitter. People talk on Twitter. Ja likes Twitter. He gets silly just like the rest of us. And he said, that, it's free to know how these hollow tips feel. And again, that was like way too much of a threat for a person like him to some like one of those anime avatars. What are you doing? People just scoffed it off or whatever. Don't be dumb on social media, whatever. That was in the summer. Then we had this incident, I think, with the Pacers. Then the New York Post put up an article saying that he was in an altercation with some 17-year-old and he went and got a gun. And again, his PR department said, no, that was already, it was self-defense and he didn't have a gun. Like, you guys are making a big deal of nothing. This is not true. This is bad reporting. And then like a couple days later, he himself is on Instagram showing a gun. And I think that the reason that this has become a big deal, besides the fact that he did that, is we have all those other incidents I just talked about. That's 3 or 4 off the top of my head I know about, involving him and guns and confrontation and all this stuff. So when people see that Instagram picture and it's all that live, it made them think, so all those things are true, and there's probably even more that I don't know about. And that's the thing. That's what's making this such a big deal. If this was the first incident, it might not even be that big, but it's not the first. It's the first of like 4 in the last 6 months that we've heard about you with this stuff. And I think that's the thing, that's along with the fact that it was irresponsible and dumb for someone of his, level. It's, oh, wait, I've been hearing about, this isn't the first time I've heard about you and this kind of stuff. And I think that's what's made it frustrating. Before this happened, when I thought about Ja in his play, it reminded me a lot of AI. Just an explosive player, killer crossover, carrying a team that, didn't have the notoriety it did before. But now he's reminding me of AI for the wrong reasons, because AI also had that, right? But AI had that because, to me, I understood AI because I know him enough to know he came from like a troubled background, and it was a lot of stuff, and the way AI acts as well is different. And I'm just kind of more
was
confused.
Different too. Like
society
he was ahead.
Different.
He was ahead of basketball, like culture.
100%.
He was ahead of the. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I think for me the main thing, I'm more frustrated because I feel like I don't know Ja enough, but I do feel like I don't think this is you, Ja. I think you're hanging around with tough people and getting this like glorified, I'm going to be tough now, versus the things I grew up with. And again, it's the glorification of that stuff. Like, that stuff's not cool or fun. Certain people came up that way and are used to that. I don't know Ja enough, but I have a good feeling that's not how he grew up, and he just needs to knock it off, And again, the grass is always greener on the other side. Vanilla Ice, of all people, said all ballers want to be rappers, all rappers want to be ballers. Everyone I know, or a lot of people I know who don't come from tough backgrounds, they kind of wish they did, because they get mad at people dunking on them for like, oh, you were like, you came from a silver spoon or whatever.
Yeah,
and they want to be.
You went to a private school, yeah.
Yeah, you went to a private school. Oh yeah, I am tough. I'm just like you guys. No, you didn't have to do this. And the grass always seems greener. But Ja's got to remember, look, you're living the life, man. Like, you got everything. You're a superstar. Like, you don't need to be doing the stuff that other people do. You got it. Just play ball, chill, get your endorsements, and life's gonna be awesome. You can still tweet, you can still have fun, and it doesn't have to be all this stuff, because all this stuff, it's gonna cost you money. It's dangerous. It's just a distraction. It's all unnecessary. You could easily avoid like all of these problems, right? But again, easier said than done. I'm not him. I don't know what's going on with him. But yeah, it's not looking good. And again, now we're talking about that instead of, how the
His
Grizzlies are
play,
going to
yeah.
play tomorrow against the Lakers,
And
right?
and before we get on to the funnier stuff about everything that's gone on, I do want to say like my other issue is because like I said, when you are the face of a franchise, one of the faces of the NBA, and one of the signature athletes at Nike, you are beyond just like a person. You can't Charles Barkley it and say I'm not a role model. You are someone that people look up to. You want people to buy your shoes. You want to be an example of how to play basketball, and vicariously people look at you as an example of how to live life. Whether that's right
Mm-hmm.
or wrong, that's a whole different conversation. I don't I don't believe in hero worship or any of that stuff like that. But the fact is like kids do look up to him, whether him as a player or like his lifestyle. So glorifying that is like he could literally lead to kids getting hurt or having the thinking that they're tough or glorifying that type of lifestyle when and it's like I know a lot of people who are gun owners and you ain't never seen one of their guns on live or
Right.
on social media. So to me, what that does is like you said, it puts on. I don't know if Ja Morant is tough. He could be the toughest guy ever. He could be like a gangster for all I know, who's just like very low key about it and just being nice about it, right? I don't know. Like I said, I probably doubt it based on what I know about what we've heard about his upbringing and like you don't have time to be a gangster if you're out there hooping, right? So,
Right.
um, but I just want to like really submit that in as like that is an issue. That by itself to me is an issue. Is like if you want to be in this position that people covet. Like I said, there's not a lot of people with signature sneakers. Like especially Nike. Nike is the biggest name in all of sports branding. You're not just a
Yeah.
regular athlete. So to me, he has to hold himself and hold the people, hold himself to a higher standard. And like I hope this is like a wake up call because nobody's gotten hurt, at least that I know of yet. So I'm hoping that he can get like more than a slap on the wrist and get the help that he needs so that he can get himself right. And that's all I want to say on that. But I did want to
Hmm.
say before we go into this the serious thing or like the humor and then close it out is I wanted you to talk a little bit about what the players only meeting. Uh, did you hear that today? If you, I can break it down if you haven't
No, yeah,
read
yeah.
it.
I heard about it. Obviously, it's a tricky thing because like you hear about it and it's probably true, but it's also technically no players have talked about it. But yeah, they had a players only meeting, discussing kind of off court, the being on the road and discipline. And Steven Adams, who the NBA kind of knows of it as like he's an authority figure and a well respected vet, kind of led the charge. Having that conversation with the whole team, not just like a singling on a job, just everybody. Hey, let's be on it. Let's.
But
Obviously, I'm
Shams said,
paraphrasing on it.
but Shams did say I watched the interview. He said Shams, he said everyone in the room was like they know who this is for because their
Sure. Yes.
record their record right on the road is like 8-21 or something like that.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Isn't that so that like
Yeah, they have a bad road record for sure.
eh,
Yeah, so yes, it wasn't at job, but just like at a work meeting, like so if we're addressing something that's already known, that means somebody it's actually for somebody low key, and of course after shortly after that, that's when he went out to party that night and all that, and that's when that gun incident occurred. So again, it's just clearly people around him know something was up or he was being too much of a goofball and it got him that day, and that's how things work, right? Like you get away with something three times, but that fourth time, now you're in trouble. And yeah, the fact that he did it to himself is kind of the most frustrating thing. At least if it was, and that's what makes it hard to justify it. At least if someone else had a camera and caught him or something, but you're like, no, you literally did this yourself. You opened the app, you went live, and you said, what I'm going to do? I'm going to show this off. That's going to be great. So clearly he needs to, obviously he's a lot younger and stuff, and I don't know what it's like to be in that situation, but not the wisest thing to do that. So hopefully he learns from it. He has to, because yeah, it was a mess, or it is a mess.
I I 100% agree with you, man. I think I think like I said, he's just he. It's. I think it's a good thing like that. This is happening now. It,
Yeah,
it there's a lot of players who have gotten into some trouble early on in their career and they benefited from it. You know what I mean? Uh, Meta World Peace is probably the like one of the most hardcore like examples of that. Like if you like if I told somebody, hey, this is the same person who was Malice in the Palace, you know, based on like his personality and the way he handles like those things now, you wouldn't even believe it, right? And there's like so many other examples of that, you know, in the NBA, you know. So I hope that this is a good wake up call. But now before we close out, let's move on to my favorite part, and that is the memes. Because of Ja Morant's actions, the only thing that as good has come from it is the memes. And you guys know that I am an avid memer. I spend lots of time on ESPN's Instagram being posted from saying the most ridiculous stuff because I find that you can't take any of this stuff too seriously, at least not on Twitter. Until somebody gets hurt, you know, these are the fruits of his actions. So he, you know, I don't feel bad about it. Like, you know, making the humor about it. But one of the best things that's come of it is some of the nicknames for Ja Morant. That we have Ja Wick. That was the first name that was trending. Less popular was Ja Gotti, which if anybody knows who John Gotti is, that is hilarious. And I have to say, probably my favorite is today, once it was announced that there's going to be a investigation by the city that Ja Morant was in. Today, Ja Morant was
oh my god,
trending. And I have to say that I'm very proud and impressed by Twitter's nicknames, because it's not often that we get nicknames like that. There's always that one NBA Twitter moment of the season, and I think this was it.
Man, yeah, it's been again, like we said, it's a mix of everything. It's sad, frustrating, you know, disappointing, sort of funny, because again, at the end of the day, no one did get hurt. And it's like, man, you really were that dumb. You went on live. I can't believe you did. Like, what are you doing? You know, so there is a little bit of that, since there wasn't, you know, an actual incident. It was just like, oh man, you're such a knucklehead, dude. Like, what is going on? But like you said, hopefully we can laugh. You can get over it. And like you said, it's not the end of the world. You know, he didn't hurt anyone. He's just acting dumb, is what this is. So let's course correct it. Let's get it over with. And then hopefully after this, he has like another, you know, 10 years in the NBA. He's an absolute legend. And you know, we can just keep focusing on the ball, and that's it. And we could wrap it up. So not the worst thing anyone's ever done. So hopefully, as long as he learns from it, and hopefully this is the worst, right? And then we can just move forward versus, like, you know, the alternative, which no one wants to see.
Facts. I couldn't have said it anything. Put it better myself. I literally couldn't have, because I'm struggling with the English language right now. No, but yeah, I think we're gonna end it on that. A lot, you know, it's been a while since we've been back here, so we're kind of getting back in the swing of things. We told Dalton we were gonna try and keep it under 30 minutes, and we're about to hit 50 minutes. So sorry, Dalton. But we appreciate you helping us, Dalton. Shout out to Edwin Garcia. And you can make sure you follow everybody here on their social media. Edwin's is at ecreates88, and mine is the pettiest LA. Feel free to reach out, and thank you guys for showing love. And you know, we're just getting started, so we'll be back at it each week. And next week we'll throw in a little bit of sneakers. We didn't really have time to do it today, but we'll get back at it. You guys have a good rest of your day.
All right, man. Peace.
Coming out the lead, and you know it's IB. Ice white shit, and we on the IRE. They like the way I motherfucking do IT. I tell the whole door, ain't no bitch like me.